Hello, everybody. Welcome to Liberty and EDC. I'm your host, Daniel Sellers Norman, and we are here with Lexi Boger, and she's running for District 3 Supervisor. And Lexi, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell me a little about yourself. Who's Lexi Boger?
Well, my name is Lexi Boger. I am from District 3, actually born and raised. So born on the family farm, which is Boger Winery. My parents started
You were
that.
actually born at the farm?
Well, I was born in Sacramento, but they drove me back to the farm immediately. So where I began my service as an indentured servant for the next 18 years. So, yeah. So come from the wine industry and agriculture here in El Dorado County, but I have spent the last 30 years in other areas working in the wine industry, ag tourism, doing marketing, design, business strategy, stuff like that in those industries. And then I came back here to have my kids and moved back to Placerville and have been working here and working with the community ever since.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then, so your family's pretty well known, the Boger family. Are you doing anything at the winery now?
I am helping the winery interface with the county government on land use policies and actually other businesses in the industry too. So I'm a current planning commissioner for the district, and so we see land use issues and things coming through, and some of that affects agriculture and the winery stuff too. So I sort of help to interpret that for them and shepherd their goals through there too, just to help them understand what's going on at the county. So that's how I'm helping them out. Yeah.
Very cool. And now, so you're running for District 3.
Mm-hmm.
So how does somebody know if they're in District 3 or not?
It's pretty simple. It's three cousins: Placerville, Camino, and Diamond Springs. So if you're in one of those general areas, then you're in District 3. So small but mighty, and we're at the heart of the county.
Okay. And then tell us, what does a supervisor do for our county?
Really exciting things. Super exciting. But no, it's mostly budgeting. It's dealing with the minutia of county business sometimes, pretty dry. Occasionally you get some exciting things coming through. They'll deal with land use. Like, for example, ranch marketing came through recently. So it's talking about how we're going to have the industry be dynamic, and you can sort of influence some interesting things there too. But it's mostly just basic issues, funding roads, things like that. Yeah.
And then, so what makes you want to do that?
I have this problem that when I see something that isn't working, I'm like compelled to go and fix it. So as much as I love this county in recent years, I think my name's on some bathroom walls that say, having trouble with the county? Call Lexi. Here's her number. So, because I do work in economic development and stuff too. So I've just been having people calling up in recent years saying, I'm trying to do something new. I want to start a new business or just build a little ADU or things that really shouldn't be too difficult, and they're just having these, horror stories of getting stuck in the process and kind of losing hope of achieving their, like I'd say, small, medium, or big size dreams. You should be able to do any of them and not really run into, the county should be helping you, not getting in your way. So I just thought it's time to get in and see if I can help get us through some of these process problems. And I'm a real visionary type person, so I can see things coming down the pike that I don't think we're ready for, but if we just put our creative thinking caps on, we can position the county to do well and help our folks to do well as well. And that goes from everything from business economics to our housing issue, things like that. So we need to get all those things in place, and I hope to help do that.
So what are some of those things that you see coming down the pike?
Well, certainly climate change has affected a lot of things, like, requiring big vegetation management ordinances, for example. We're dealing with at the county right now, which seems like sort of a remote thing, but when it comes to a practical application, we have to try to help people who now have to manage their properties in a different way. This is a thing that's only going to get worse in the future. So how do we help our fixed income seniors deal with their big properties? Maybe they can't afford that. How do we help them get into other housing? We have a lack of senior housing, so how are we going to position for that? So there's there's some implications to climate change that actually play out in these other issues like housing. The second biggest change I think that's coming that we're not ready for is our technological changes. I mean, we're going to see exponential technologies hit, which if we thought the internet changed the world, we're about to see some major things in the next 5 years or so that are going to change people's expectation of how things are delivered. And the county is already struggling to deliver things in a modern way. It's going to be a big shift to get us up to speed on that kind of a thing. So we need forward-thinking people.
Yeah, I think just recently I can now pay my water bill online. But that's exactly. A city thing, but
so we've just gotten up into 2015 with that. Great, we need to get to 2024. I was telling some people recently, I have kids 20 and 18. We've got 1 or 2 generations of people who won't open paper mail. So what are we going to do when a county has got vital services and things that you are obligated to deal with them for your life and by law, and they're communicating with you through, the ancient system of the snail mail, and you're used to getting something on a text saying, hey, your bill is due in 30 seconds. Click this button, So we're going to lose folks, and it'll hit us in revenue and our efficiency at the county if we don't sort of get at least up to some current stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's not our county, but I just received something recently where they needed me to fax something to them. And I was like, I don't have a fax. I don't know anyone who has a fax.
I know that. Yeah, exactly. So these are sort of the things we need to modernize our thinking before we even begin to modernize our systems as well. So there's some culture shifts I think that need to happen at the county in order to get us there. So, but I'm all about culture shift. So I think I can get in there and help.
Is there any other, areas that are important to you that you're running on?
Yeah, well, I think, we touched on housing, and this comes back to, I mentioned our seniors. We're like 6, I think we are still one of the oldest by demographic counties in the state. So,
I heard we're oldest in California and like third in the whole nation.
Yeah, I'm extremely worried because there is no inventory really for senior housing, which would be, affordable and then flat on the ground so it's accessible and sort of designed for those folks. If we see that group of people shifting where they need to downsize from their properties, where are they going to go? Also, housing for my kids. I love them, but I really need them to move out. I'm just saying. And there's not a lot of affordable spots for them to go. The rental, market here is absolutely insane. You have to know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy just to try to get in. So I think we need to address for those reasons, and certainly workforce housing. We have a family business, and in recent years we've seen it much more difficult for us to retain or even get people to apply to work because they can't afford, they can't afford to work in our industries and live here. So we've got to do 2 things. One, bring the cost of housing down or build more inventory so that they can get in, and also raise economic opportunities and wages by investing in economic development. And economic development is something that this county has really, I think, lost steam on in the last 10 years or more. There's a lot of opportunity for our rural economy, but we need to get in there and give it some breathing room.
So what do you think that looks like? Because I know El Dorado County, it's always kind of the mantra is slow growth. Yeah. So what does it look like for you?
Well, I don't think that economic vitality means nuts or stick and mortar growth. For example, when I talk about economic development, I'm mostly focused on I call them our rural working landscape industries. Camping, glamping, rafting, skiing, Apple Hill, wineries, all of that kind of stuff. 750 million total economic impact just for agriculture alone. So we can actually have those landscapes that are open, beautiful, rural, be producing more revenue for the county and providing jobs for people, and that still keeps the look of the landscape that we're going for. So I absolutely not interested in looking like Roseville. But I think, I've seen big box stores be this county's idea of economic development for a while, and that's actually an inverse. It's not a positive. It ends up competing with some of our more niche businesses, and I think that we need to look at, helping our small businesses and our rural businesses grow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, bringing more tourism in, that brings money from outside the county in.
Absolutely. But the county leaves those tourism dollars on the table because they're not applying certain models that we could be using to get more tax revenue or sales tax revenue off of those tourists. I don't want to squeeze our residents for more money to pay for things, like our rural roads or whatever. They pay enough in taxes. But we've got this whole well-heeled population that moves through. We get millions of people in Apple Hill. And if we just apply some better models, we can be having the tourists help us pay for some of this infrastructure that we can't afford. So things like that, I hope to have a conversation about once I get in there.
Great. Any other issues that you wanted to talk about?
I think those are my primary issues for now because I see those as being just immediately needing our attention. But, I'm concerned about the last few years politically. I mean, not just in our town, but in others where we've had divisiveness. I feel like the fabric of the community's been really torn by a lot of that sort of dialogue. And I'm hoping that, because I'm running as an independent, and I'm not talking about any of these national trigger issues. They don't apply, in our local landscape. So it's important to me that we sort of reunite as a community, find our shared goals so that we can sort of work together. And, we can disagree on those things when we get to it, but we need to really repair the fabric. So I'm hoping for people will feel in me that I'm a unifier, and I don't have an ideology or a political, agenda. I want to serve people and I want to help regular people with their interests and make their lives better.
What makes you qualified for, being that unifier and for addressing these issues that you talked about?
Well, I think just being from El Dorado County, I speak El Dorado County. We've always been different, but it's a small town, so you're kind of forced to be friends and work together. So that's just sort of my basic upbringing, how I am with folks. But in terms of the actual policy issues and programs, like we're talking about economic development, my 30 years of experience in the industries that drive the county, I think is a big contributor to that. And I was our District 3 appointee to the Community Economic Development Advisory Committee to the board for a number of years. And we actually made ordinances and helped form some policies. So I got to see the nuts and bolts. And certainly as a planning commissioner, I work closely in the government processes and the system from the inside. And I love it, actually. I have to read the general plan, and it's a document that I love, and I will read every little word. I'm a detailed person, so I think I have the skills that it takes to be knowledgeable once I'm in there, how to implement these things.
Great. Now, why should somebody vote for you?
Because I represent a new and fresh perspective, I think, for the county. That's the main thing. I feel like we don't need to go backwards. We don't need any more of this. This is how we've always done it. Because the way we used to do it worked in those times, in those circumstances, but you can't apply old solutions to new problems. And I think that I really am forward-facing, but I have a love for what makes this county great, so people can feel confident that I'm going to preserve that, but while also putting us in a good position for the future. So just a fresh perspective.
What is that fresh perspective?
Well, I think it's about being able to see changes, not be afraid of change, being creative and flexible to take things that are going to come at us from the world in a way that is not going to not surprise us, and that we can not just dig our head in the hole and say, I'm not going to face that. It's just someone being like, we can handle it, and be willing to try new things too. And certainly look to other counties to see if anyone else has done it better. I am not prideful to say, we always know best, because we don't. If someone else has figured something out, one of our neighbors with their ideas, then let's try that too.
Yeah, and speaking of being creative, so I know Lexi fairly well, and you have brought so much more art into my life. From making giant sugar skulls to crazy flower arrangements and all that stuff. And you have quite an artist background as well. Do you see that playing into your running for, or like being in that position? We'll see it there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being an artist is that you have to be a person who's comfortable with the creative process, right? And the creative process is something that is, you may think you have something you want to make, but you just start working with it. And then when it responds in a different way, you have to respond back. And it's about not being overly attached to your original ideas. And I think that ability to engage in the creative process will allow me to tackle any of these other issues that the county deals with, because I can apply that type of perspective, and I think it keeps me open-minded. And just from a creative thing, I believe, I encourage people to all have a creative outlet. It makes us happier people. It's proven. So kind of back to the permit and planning issues, when people were calling me, oh, I can't build my ADU or whatever. When I look at those things that they're trying to do, those are their creative projects, right? They're trying to build a she shed for the wife or whatever it is that they're doing, and they've got their dreams invested in it. They're trying to make something. And I'm an art teacher in the past, and so I've always facilitated that environment wherein someone can create. And I feel like the county needs to take that role. It's our job to set an environment wherein people have the freedom to create what they want to do, and we can help them along the way, but we're not going to crush their dreams. And so I think we can approach things in that way so that people can actually exercise like we do, making something and having some success with it and having some support and an environment to do it.
Very cool. Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I'm just happy to be in the race. It's a primary, which is on March 5th, and a lot of folks don't necessarily think they need to come out for a primary. They're going to wait for the big show in November, but I would encourage everybody to come on out in that primary and vote, because it really makes a difference in our local elections. So if you can spread the word, tell your friends, and come out on March 5th and check the box.
Yep. And tell us again who you are and where you're running.
Okay. My name's Lexi Boger. I'm running for supervisor in District 3, so Placerville, Camino, and Diamond Springs. You can find me at Vote for Lexi with a 4. Lexi4supervisor.com, and you can find more information about me there.
Great. Thank you for coming on, Lexi.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
And this has been Liberty and EDC. And again, this is Lexi Boger. She's running for District 3 Supervisor. And I'm your host, Daniel Sellers Norman. And you can find us on Foothill 7 TV. You can find us under the same name on YouTube and all the social media. And we'll see you guys next time.